After 12 months and 12,000 miles with this, my Tesla Model Y, it's time for a review. And I know that you've watched a lot of reviews. I can see the fatigue in your eyes. So in this review, I'm going to talk about other things that those reviews don't talk about. And I'll also put this video into chapters, and that way you can just skip to the parts that are most relevant for you. Let's get cracking. The rear view mirror in the Model Y isn't that big. And if you look behind here, you can see that the rear view isn't that good either. You've got quite a big sort of C-pillar coming down here. You've got this gorgeous glass roof, but then that does create this roof line here, and the kind of the angle of the window at the back there doesn't help either. However, if you want more rear view, then you just click on the cameras and you've got these here, and it really does make a difference. You can see a lot more. The cameras on this car, this is a 2023 car, are hardware 3. I mean, I think the resolution's pretty good, but if you buy a new car today, it will be hardware 4, and I think it's about 3 or 4 times the resolution. When you come onto slip roads and changing lanes, there is a tiny blind spot in this mirror, but as long as you use your indicator, your blind spot camera comes on, and if there is something there, then this all goes red, and that solves the problem completely. But this means, in the most part, driving, parallel parking, reverse parking a Tesla Model Y is actually a doddle. However, I do have a problem with the front. And that's because in my normal driving position, I cannot see the front edges of the car. Even if I lift the camera up, the way that the front of the car falls away makes it quite difficult to judge where the front wheels are. And as a result, those car parks, you know, the ones that are just narrow with those really high curbs, they scare the life out of me. And about every 3 to 4 months, I have to get a man out to take the wheel off the car to get it perfectly refurbished, because I love my wheels and I hate seeing scuffs on them. You probably know already that a new Tesla Model Y won't have parking sensors, and it relies on Tesla camera vision. And if you watch a lot of early videos, you'll see a lot of people showing that this didn't work very well. However, since it went live, I found it to just keep getting better. And although I still prefer ultrasonic sensors, USSs, I mean, this system is now really quite good, if a little cautious. In addition to the cameras, I've just reversed right up to my garage door here. So in addition to these great cameras, you've also got Tesla Vision, which, I mean, it's not gorgeous to look at, but it shows you what's going on. I'm right up against the garage door. You can see there's a red line there. It's telling me to stop. You can see there's a vehicle here, which is our Audi Q4. And if I turn the wheel of the car, it will show you the direction where I'm going to go as I go backwards. The next thing I want to talk about is cheap motoring. And this may be because they're about to refresh the Tesla Model Y at any time now. And if you've seen the Tesla Model 3 Highland videos, you'll see that they upgraded the interior. They've made some external changes as well. And the ride on the new Tesla Model 3 is significantly better than the ride on the older, well, last year's Tesla Model 3. I've driven both and can confirm that's true. So with the Tesla Model Y now, this version of the Tesla Model Y, not this version, this is the Performance, you can lease them in the UK for £399 a month right now. At the end of the quarter in June, I think this video will go out after that, you also get 15,000 free supercharging miles. So you can charge your car for 15,000 miles on Tesla. You can lease one for £399 a month. I've owned 4 Teslas. I've never serviced any of them. So in addition to like the insurance and right now 0 road tax, but that's about to change, the only expense I've had is the occasional tyre and washer fluid. And the fuel bill on these is really cheap as well. So I use Octopus Energy. I'm in the UK, as I've mentioned. If you're not with Octopus, I'll put a link in the description so you can join, and we'll both get a £50 credit. And £50 is enough to drive this car home charging in excess of 2,000 miles. So it's an off-peak tariff, and my fuel bill for 12,000 miles a year home charging, I mean, it's about £250 to £300. Next, I want to talk models, because there are 4 versions of the Tesla Model Y. So you've got the rear wheel drive version, previously called the standard range. And with that version, it has an LFP battery. It's about a 60 kilowatt hour battery. And with the LFP battery, you will charge it to 100%. If you get the long range version, it will go further. That has approximately a 75 kilowatt hour battery. However, for daily driving, you only charge to 80%. So 80% of 75, if I've done my maths correctly, is about 60%. It's about 60 kilowatt hours. And what that means is for daily driving, the standard range or rear wheel drive Tesla Model Y has about the same range as the long range version, because one will be charged to 100%, one will be charged to 80%. The rear wheel drive version as well also handles the best because it's only got a motor at the back, meaning that the front is just for steering. The front wheels just steer the car, and that gives it better agility, better lightness at the front end. And in my opinion, although it's down on performance on the other two versions, it's also the best handling, because something like this, the performance version, there is very little opportunity for me to get all the power down in this car. It has a 0 to 60 of 3.5 seconds. And apart from showing friends 4 or 5 times a year and slip roads, I don't get to use anywhere near of its power. Next version is the long range version. Now this has the advantage of, if you're going on road trips, you can charge it to 100% and it will go noticeably further. In addition to that, it will also charge quicker. But the biggest advantage, in my view, as you can probably guess, I'm a child with a beard, is that you can make it faster. So when I had a Model 3 long range, as soon as I got bored with the power, that 0 to 60 being 4.2 seconds, you press a button in the app, you give Tesla £1,500 or dollars or $2,000, and then all of a sudden your car has got noticeably more power and your 0 to 60 drops by half a second. So right now, the long range version of the Tesla Model Y is the only version you can do that in. And if you're the sort of driver you think, I might start to get bored with the power, this could save you a fortune, because it's like having a new car. As you know, I'm in the performance version. I love the way it looks. I think this car looks the best out of all the Tesla Model Ys. I do like the performance, although I don't really get to use it that often. However, the things that I don't like about this car are the harsh ride from the sport suspension. It actually means that I feel like I'm less likely to push this car, because I know it's going to get more uncomfortable because of the bigger wheels and the harder suspension. In hindsight, if I was buying again, I would have bought the long range car and possibly gone for the wheel upgrade. I may not have also gone for the white seats. Now these seats are super robust. I don't clean them very often, and if they get anything on them, and I've got 2 kids, they just wet wipe off. So I just basically have a bag of wet wipes in the car. 99% of the time I'm wearing blue or black jeans, and you do get a little bit of transfer, but it just immediately comes off. These seats are really hardy. However, what I have found is, like, in some circumstances, like, they're just a bit bright, but they do help keep the cabin cooler as well over the black seats. If I was going again, I would get the black seats, just because I do worry about these a little bit. However, in 12,000 miles, they've given me no cause for concern whatsoever. Next is safety, and these cars are incredibly safe on a couple of fronts. So the driver assistance in this is excellent. The autopilot is excellent in the most part. And what I found is, especially on long trips, if you're starting to fatigue slightly, this will see things before I do, or it will certainly react to things before I do. I've had a couple of instances where I've gone to hit the brakes because there was an obstacle, but the car's already done it. And from a physical point of view, I was in traffic in my Tesla Model S, and the traffic braked. And you know how traffic can kind of concertina up, and that's how you get pile-ups, etc. Well, the autopilot was on it before I was, and the car behind me hit us at about 60 miles an hour. In fact, it hit us with such impact, his eyes fell out. But my wife turned to me and said, "What was that?" I got out of my car, and there was hardly any damage, and we were able to carry on with a journey to the south of France, which we were taking in the car before getting it repaired. So I love my family, and I can't think of a safer place to put them than in one of these. To touch a bit further on the autopilot, essentially you've got 2 aspects of it, and this is standard autopilot. I've had enhanced autopilot, which enables the car to park itself and change lanes on itself. I'm in the UK, so you can't really use many more features than autopilot. Certainly can't use the self-driving function here. So when you're driving, it's got the adaptive cruise control element, which is very good and very adaptable. But the lane keep assist is the part that really sets this apart from other cars. It is truly superb. It holds the center of the lane really well. It won't avoid a pothole, but it will keep you in that center lane. And on longer journeys, at high speed journeys, when you're driving, what you find is the car is doing a lot of the work for you, and really you're just sitting here supervising, and you can see a lot more of what's going on. And after sort of maybe a 12 or 13 hour drive in this, when we go on long journeys, I get out of this car and I'm nowhere near as fatigued as if I'd have taken something like a Audi Q4, for instance, just because this takes so much of the strain. Next, I want to talk sound system. I've got a very nice Sonos 5.1 surround system in my house, and it is truly excellent. I kind of feel like the sound system in this, I mean, if it's not better, it's certainly very, very close. However, the acoustics in the Model Y aren't quite as good as the Model 3. I've had the same sound system in both. My personal view is that it sounds great in here, sounds a bit better in the Model 3. Whether you're playing a game, I mean, this game here, Skyforce Reloaded, I can highly recommend, it's addictive. So whether you're playing a game or you're in Tesla Theatre and you're using one of the streaming services, the sound is superb. Now, I can't really show the sound because of my microphone. It absolutely hates this, but try and listen. The next thing I want to talk about is driving dynamics. And as much as this drives well, it doesn't drive anywhere near as good as a Tesla Model 3. I do like driving. I do feel like the best performing cars are like lower to the road just because of physics. But our kids were getting bigger. My wife and I are now the smallest members of our family. And they were a little bit cramped in the Tesla Model 3. So we bought a Tesla Model Y, this one. However, then my wife immediately liked the driving situation in this car, and she bought an Audi Q4 e-tron, which then made me think, if I'd have known you were going to do that, I wouldn't have bought this Tesla Model Y. But here we are. A really strong point for this car, though, is software. So since owning this car, I knew it had LED matrix headlights kind of built in. It was never advertised as having them, but at some point in the last few months, they got switched on. They're excellent. They've got better as time's gone on as well. It's a really great addition to constantly have a car that's evolving. Another feature coming is the foot wavy thing under the boot to save you having to kind of use your hands to open the boot or your app. You just wave your foot, the car will recognize it's you via the camera, and it will open the boot for you. They've just released another feature which is excellent, and you know, like when you're driving in average speed zones, say it's a 60, and you're trying to keep it on that 60 limit, aren't you? I know, I'm looking at you. You might even be that driver that goes to 62, just to push it a little bit. So now what they've got on here is it will tell you how long the speed limit zone is, how long the average speed limit zone is. It will also tell you your average speed whilst you're in that zone as well. So if you're kind of pushing the limits, you'll know to pull it back a bit, or if you're well under, you might want to kind of, I mean, no one should be breaking the speed limits. Okay, at the risk of alienating myself from the Tesla community, I want to talk downsides to this car, and there are a few. So in my case, in the Tesla Model Y Performance, I mean, I've been driving since 1991. I have a protected no claims bonus. I've not had a fault claim in at least a decade. I live here. There's a very low crime rate around here. The biggest crime that we've had since we lived here is our milkman delivered some ginger cake with the milk, and somebody stole our ginger cake. I mean, and that almost made the local papers. I'm also 50. So when I went to renew the insurance on this car, it was £1,100 this year, which surprised me. I kind of feel like £600–700 maybe. I know insurance has gone up, but £1,100. And I use the Martin Lewis method as well. I tried 21 days before my insurance ran out. I tried all the comparison sites. Just really expensive to insure this version of the Tesla Model Y. So before you buy yours, just get yourself a little quote to make sure it's about where you think it's going to be. And the next potential downside is in fact Juniper. Because if you buy a Tesla Model 3 today, at some point in the near future, could be a week, could be a year, Tesla will release the newer version of this. However, what I have found is when they release a new version, the lease rates and the deals are substantially harder to get. I mean, you can never really get a deal on a Tesla, but you can get some really keen finance deals on these at the moment. As I've mentioned, the standard range or rear-wheel drive version for under £400 a month. This is a lot of car for under £400 a month. That seems to me ridiculously cheap. And the last downside I've found as a user, and this is with every Tesla I've owned, is the wipers. They are quite often about as reliable as a high five from a blind man on a trampoline. They just seem to do their own thing. I am constantly just tapping the wiper button when they're on auto settings. And if you get a bug over the camera, squash bug for instance, they just go mental trying to clear it because they think it's a downpour of rain. And a couple of times I've had to pull over and actually clean the cameras just so I can stop the wipers from going crackers. Then the last thing I want to talk about is a supercharger network, and I know every review covers that, but they don't talk about certain things that it can do which really make driving a Tesla, especially on long distances, so much easier than driving other EVs. Let me give you some examples. So my wife's Audi Q4, we went on a 200-mile trip in it to London and back. The weather was atrocious, like -0 temperatures, sheet rain on the way back, and we struggled to do the 200-mile journey. And it was a brand new car at the time, and on the way back, we kind of needed about 4 miles of range. So I thought to myself, we can do this, but I'm just gonna stop for 3 minutes. So I got my wife to check the Ionity chargers, and there were 6 on the A14, and it said that 3 were free. So I thought, fine, we'll just go in there for 3 minutes, save any sort of hassle. We pull up at these chargers, they're not free at all. All 6 are occupied, and 3 aren't in use because 3 people can't get the chargers to start, so they're showing as available, and then there's a queue of about 5 cars. We then stopped at Peterborough where there's more chargers, same situation, and we were a little bit stranded there, and we had to wait an hour for this 3-minute charge. That's something that's never happened in a Tesla. Well, in my experience of driving Teslas anyway. So with the Tesla supercharging network, we're in the east of England. If we're going to the south of France, I will just put in the Dordogne and not think any more about charging, because the car will tell me exactly where to charge and for how long. In addition to that, if there's just a lot of chargers generally, normally there's 6, 8, 10, 12 or 20 chargers at a stop. And because the car will precondition the battery before you get to a charger, you get higher charging rates, but it also knows exactly how many cars are going to that charger. And if it looks too busy, it will stop you before or after if you've got enough charge. And it also knows what the state of charge of all the cars charging on a supercharger is. So even if the charger's full right now and you're 10 minutes away, the supercharger network will know that 4 of those chargers are leaving and you're first in line to get on that charger. It's hard to explain just how good the supercharger network is, not just as physically charging your car, but actually as a network. And it is head and shoulders above anything else that I've experienced when it comes to charging electric cars. So I hope you found this video useful, and I hope there's things in this video that aren't in others. Please let me know in the comments, because that really helps boost the video as well. And if you're thinking about a Tesla but you're not sure exactly which model you should get, then watch this video here, or I might put it here. I think it's going to go there actually. There's no room here, is there? So watch this video here, and this is where I break down the different models of Tesla Model Y. And by the end of that video, you will know exactly which one is the right one for you. Until next time, see you soon.